to the other one about submission. Now, this one is a tricky one because I know a lot of people, they don't like this idea of submission. But submission, the definition of submission that I saw was the action or fact of accepting or yielding to a superior force or the will or authority of another person. So when thinking about submission, you shouldn't think of it as the way that society thinks about it. You know, especially with feminism and you know, some women, they hear submission and it's an immediate trigger. But because they think they're bowing down to the man. You're not submitting to him. You're submitting to God. God is the highest authority. And this is the chain of command that he set forth. So by you submitting to your husband and honoring him, you are honoring God. Because that is what he established. God is never going to call Eve first. He's going to call Adam. The man is the leader. The man is the one that is responsible. So even when we look at the functioning of homes, when the man isn't present, it is disaster. It is chaos. There is no order. That's something I typically see. Now, I'm not saying that's the case for every house where a husband and a father isn't present. But when the fathers aren't home, it goes crazy. The kids, they start doing things because there's no real like set authority that they look at and like, oh, let me ball up. Let me just sit down, relax. And it's funny because I was talking, me and my dad, my family was at the crib the other day, and he was just talking about that. Like, yo, like when he was around, he was trying to joke like, he's like, you getting old, so you think you don't gotta fear me no more. And I was told, like, I don't fear you. I respect you. When you a child, you start out in fear of your parents, but then it evolves and grows into respect because now you have more understanding of life. You understand the struggle. You got a job now. You getting a little bit of money, and now you like, dang, like, I don't know how mom and dad was providing for me and my brothers and sisters or whatever like that. You start to respect what they did. But let me go to it. 1 Corinthians chapter 11 says that the head of every man is Christ. So chapter 11, verse 3. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. So even Jesus Christ submitted. He was in submission to the Father. Submission is not a bad thing. Submission is only bad when you're under the wrong leadership. So if we think about a job, you got a manager, you got a shift lead or whatever it is like that. Nobody complains when you have a good shift lead or when you have a good manager. But let's say that person moves on to bigger and better things. Now you got a micromanager. You got somebody that got a stank attitude and all of this other stuff. Now, all of a sudden, you have an issue with the fact that this person is in leadership. Because at the end of the day, if they tell you to do something, if they tell you to get out of aisle 3 and go in the cash register, you going to go at the cash register. But submission isn't a problem unless you're submitted to the wrong person. I've seen my father and mother, and some people think submission is only for the woman. No, it's for the man as well. Because the scriptures also tell us to submit to one another. So, again, the mandate is in Ephesians 5, and we'll go through that before I get out of here. But I think about Jesus, us as the husband, love your wife like Christ loved the church. If Jesus was in submission to God, why would it not be in submission to God? So when the scriptures tell us, be not unequally yoked, this is what I mean by if you have the wrong head, this is when submission is an issue. Because that man will take on the form of his God. So if he's an atheist, he has no God. He has nothing to look up and be in reverence of. He will be governed by himself, by his own feelings. If you're married, if you're a Christian and you're married to a Muslim or you're married to a Buddhist or whatever it is, they are studying their God. They're studying whatever their scriptures or version of the Bible is, and they're going to act those things out. They will take on the form of their God. So when you're unequally yoked, there will be an issue because y'all don't see the world through the same lens. Y'all don't serve the same master. And as I already said previously in this pod, Jesus said you cannot serve two. When we look at the curse that Eve got in Genesis 3, it was interesting to me that her one of her punishments was, you will desire your husband, but he shall rule over you. Adam and Eve were supposed to rule together and have dominion over the earth. But now because of sin, what was supposed to be a 50-50 job, we together in this, now all of a sudden your husband is going to have dominion over you. So I don't think that was a punishment. It might have been just a prophecy or just a thing of like, yo, this is what's gonna happen because y'all let sin into your hearts. So my dad, he never abused his position, and I saw my mom honor his position. My mom wasn't no slave. She wasn't. And my dad never took his position and said, "Oh, when I say jump, you jump." Never that. They're a team. But the world has you thinking submission is a problem. No, it's not. The problem is when you submit it to the wrong one. I think that's it. I think that's all I got. Let me think a little bit more. Oh, Ephesians 5. My bad. Ephesians 5. Where you at? Ephesians 5. So when I think about submission, again, like I said, the mandate for the husband is to love his wife like Christ loved the church. But wives, it says in verse 22, wives, submit yourself unto your own husbands as unto the Lord. So like I said, don't look at it as I'm submitting to this man. You're not submitting to this man. You're submitting to the hierarchy and to the chain of command that God set forth. So therefore, you're submitting to God. Verse 22 through 24, I wrote down that this is not about power. This is about representation, right? Because it talks about how Christ is the head of the church and he's the savior of the body. Therefore, as the church is subject unto Christ, so let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. All right. So when you think about how Christ loved the church, he gave himself for it. That's verse 25, that he might sanctify it and cleanse it with the washing of the water, with the washing of water by the word. So verse 25 is the mandate. Husband, love your wife as Christ loved the church. 26 and 27 tells me what I'm supposed to be doing, washing my wife with the word, making sure she knows about Jesus. And I'm telling her about whatever scriptures she's reading, and I could break it down for her, give her some guidance with this stuff, right? And then verse 33, I have also, verse 28, men ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He that loveth his wife loves himself. So a man that don't love his wife, you don't even love you. Verse 33 is another thing in that whole area. Let every one of you in particular so love his wife even as himself, and the wife see that she reverence her husband. So some translations is respect your husband. But society makes it out to be like, oh, submission is a bad thing, and it's not. It's not. It's not a bad thing. You just got to pick the right guy. Now you could say, oh, some people switch up, but I don't know if people switch up. And if you keep Christ in the center of your relationship, you're going to get through the storms. You know, and you can see through the consistency of a person and how they live their life every day. You'll get a good idea. And not only that, lean not on, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. But in all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. In your relationships, you should be acknowledging God in your relationships. Asking him, is this the one I'm supposed to be with? You do that, and he give you a yes, submission ain't going to be no problem. Because that man is not going to abuse his position. And being a leader ain't no cakewalk. It's a lot of weight. It's pressure. So I don't know what people is out here doing, out here trying to make their wife a robot or a slave. Like, that's crazy. Your wife is your helpmeet, your partner, to help you carry out the things that God wants you to carry out. Not somebody you could get your own pleasures off on. But that's all I got. Also to you, I hope I answered everybody's questions. I did the best I could. But if you're listening and you made it to this point on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, if this was a blessing, go ahead, leave the 5-star review. You know you want to do it. Be a blessing. Help this thing continue to grow. Share, put your people on. It's for you and yours. If you're watching on YouTube and you made it this far, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Turn your bell notification on so you'll get the next podcast when it drops. We at 863. We got to keep it climbing, keep it going up. So yeah, I hope this was a blessing. I hope y'all learned something, and I hope that it helps you moving forward in your relationship with God, relationship with self, and your relationships with people. As always, y'all stay up. Peace and love. May the Lord be with you. You feel me?